Hi there, my name's Austin, Purity Music, and I just wanted to speak very quickly about the Cymatic uTrack 24, which is an absolutely fantastic unit, especially in its price bracket, to be able to get 24 channel input and 24 channel output into your DAW software, or even live on stage as a standalone unit, is absolutely fantastic. I mean, these things go for $650, some do for $699. I myself am selling them for $550 UK, and yeah, I think they're a fantastic unit. I got myself a couple of LR16s to start with. Unfortunately, I tried a bit of an experiment to see if I could get 32 channels by using two together, but there's no way to actually link them in series together. But although my computer recognised both units, it would only use one at a time. I tried an experiment where I had one LR16 and then tried my internal sound card and found that I could, using ASO for all, that I could actually use two different interfaces, but you can't use two of the same because they're using the same driver and they won't use them. They won't be able to use both systems at the same time. So it was worth a try. If you want 32 channels of recording to 32 tracks recording direct, you have to go for the X32 unit, and obviously probably the Midas or Behringer mixers that actually they are compatible with. But in the price bracket for 24, I mean, when it comes to it, who actually uses more than 24? I probably won't use 24, let alone simultaneously. But you do soon use your tracks when you're doing any stereo recordings. So, and you'll see from my setup, I am actually using quite a few stereo channels. So that eats them up. I still got plenty of spare. So, but yeah, I'm going to just take you through a couple of the features of the uTrack 24 because if you're looking for an interface in its price bracket, it is one of the best. So, okay, so here we are with the uTrack 24. And as you can see, you can't miss it. It's a single unit rack, and as you can see from the massive buttons, it is very discreet in there, and you can hardly even notice it. But if we go to the screen, you can see what it is, and you can also see I'm using in USB interface mode. Now, we've got the USB on the front, main dials and controls, main volume output and headphone output and foot switch, in which you can assign that foot switch for either punch recording, playing, etc. Especially when you're on stage, it would be quite handy if you've got it in play mode and you've got backing tracks running through it. You can press play from anywhere from a foot switch. Now, what's great about the uTrack 24 is you've got 24 tracks of recording, 24 tracks of playing. So if you record your band in a live setting and they've done the sound check, you're happy with their mix, you can then play that back at some other point, and you can set up in another area with all the instruments you've recorded and vocals, etc., and have a virtual soundtrack. Now, I don't myself at the moment, at this time, I don't have any use for that function, but I can see the good of it, because it means you know what bands are like, and sometimes people don't turn up on time, but you need to get on. At least if you've recorded a click track on one of those as well, you know that the band that is there can practice along with whoever wasn't. You know that if the whole band hasn't turned up and they've got to the wrong place and you still need to set up the sound before they get there, they can turn up and you can just get on because you've already sound checked all the equipment. Fantastic. But I've bought this as a recording interface. Now, it's the cheapest audio interface with this many channels that is on the market. There is none better. Most people are selling them for about $650, $699 UK. I myself am selling these units at $549, so £550 UK. But I'll go into that a little bit later. Just explain a little bit more. Now, you've got some fantastic functions about in this unit, which obviously above being able to use something. I'm a PC user, so I'm using Cubase. So as you can see, I've got 24 channels or tracks of input here on the screen. But I do use an outboard mixer. I find having a discrete mixer just gives you more, it gives you a bit more power, because this unit doesn't have pre's, like some of the other units on them, have mic pre's, that are on the market. But the Cymatic audio doesn't have any pre's. It's got pads and you can adjust the level input, but not to the degree you could if you were using a discrete mixer. So I do recommend, if you've got a mixer, to have one, even if you're only using a couple at a time. This goes for the LR16s as well. Now obviously if you want more tracks you can go for the X32, but it's not a standalone unit. That goes in either a Midas or Behringer mixers to allow you to turn your mixer into a 32 track audio interface as well. So what I would suggest, you know, is always have a discrete mixer. It just gives you that little bit more control. Okay, but most, don't forget, EQs, things like that. This is just to give you more levels, pre's, you know, DIs, that kind of thing. But obviously main EQs don't over mix as you're going in. Unless you know exactly the sound you want, don't pre-mix too much. Do the rest of your mixing and all that in post when it comes to your DAW software. Okay. Now, what's really good about the uTrack, let's just go straight onto something technical. Using the uTrack's Cymatics own ASIO driver, that's the kind of latency we're looking at. And that is pretty darn low. That's really not bad. Anything above 10 milliseconds, especially on the output latency, you know, your musicians are going to start to notice that lag, you know, in them hitting a string, for instance, and that string sound actually coming out, especially if you're using the input monitor. But if lag, that kind of thing, which is usually down to processor and RAM on your computer side, you know, and how many tracks you're recording at the same time, because, you know, the lower that is, the better. Those two figures there, the 3 and the 9, the lower they are, the better, you know, for those of you that already know. But the Cymatics own ASIO driver is pretty darn good. Gives you good results. You know, I haven't, you know, unless I'm running stupid amounts, you know, sometimes I have to adjust some settings, but I haven't had to yet. And you don't want any, you know, when you're recording and playing back, you don't want any pops and squeals and crackles, you know, due to poor latency. But what you can obviously do, you know, if you are going ridiculous and you're recording a massive orchestra and your latency starts to, you know, cause you a problem, then that's where the discrete mixer comes in, because then you can do some direct monitoring rather than in the computer monitoring, which is where you will notice the lag. Okay. Now, something that's really fantastic about the uTrack, now the way I've got this set up is I've got 24 channels in Cubase. It's Cubase Elements 8, which allows you to have 24 channels of individual recording and simultaneously as well, I might add. So I've got my 24 channels here, but obviously, you know, because you never know what you're going to need, at the end I've also got 2 channels of MIDI through the Helion and the Prologue units that are in Cubase. But one of the things that I really want to show you, which I think is fantastic, is although I've got the outputs running, as you can see, you've got ins and outs, you've got all the insets plugged in, so you've got your 16 channels there, and then you've got 17 to 24 on the other side of the mixer. Now I'm using a PV32FX, which is a fantastic little mixer. I mean, I've got it at a real steal, and it was new, so absolutely fantastic mixer. So you can see I've got here, I've got drums. At the moment, currently in here, I am only using a digital drum kit because it's just a home project studio. Eventually what will happen is anything else that's over this side will move to here, and this side here of the mixer will be used and dealt for drums. So it gives you your seven channels for main drums, 8 if you need them, but if it's 7 channels for drums, and then 1 more for maybe a talkback. So what I've got here is left and right drums, left and right piano, left and right guitar, left and right bass. Not that you always need left and right bass, but you know, because of the rack, you'll see what I'm using that for. And then left and right synth. Now this is where I come to what I think is the most fantastic thing about the uTrack. If you've got the right kind of software on your PC with the uTrack, you know, so with Cubase, obviously you can, all your inputs you can separate. So obviously you've got channel 1 is input 1, channel 2 is input 2. But you've also got 24 outputs. What on earth would you use those for? Now, like I said earlier on, you've got 3 left and right outputs. So you've got your headphone socket on the front of the uTrack unit. You've got your headphone socket there, and that's track 1 and 2, outputs track 1 and 2. On the back, you've got also tracks outputs 1 and 2, and then you've got the inline 24 tracks. So track out of those, all those audio tracks out, you've got a 1 and 2. So you've got 3 sets of left and right, which is your main output. Now, if you've got software where you can configure what outputs you're using, for instance, in this case, I'm using Reason 5, for an outboard synth module. So outputs 3 and 4 on the uTrack are configured as a left and right. So they're completely separate from the normal left and right outputs. So this is now 3 and 4 output is just left and right outputs for a synth. So as you can hear, into outputs here, you've got, that's my piano output. But 2 of the outputs I've got linked up. So outputs 3 and 4 on the uTrack 24 are left and right, configured through Reason for Reason only. So that won't come through my normal audio mix or anything. It's completely separate. So there you have it. Really, really simple. The uTrack 24 is just amazing. You know, the fact that you can configure those outputs to exactly where you want to go, not affect your main output mix. But it also means that, you know, that's only, say, number 1 and 2 left and right main output is being used, 3 and 4 being used for Reason straight into the desk and completely individually mixed. That gives me another 20 output channels. That's 10 more stereo output channels. So say, for instance, I've got 10 rooms separately being used. That actually means that I can send a completely separate audio mix to each of those rooms, so that you would do with like a front of house foldback mix. You know, it just boggles the mind that in a just over £500 or just under £700 price bracket, you can get an audio interface of this kind of quality and this kind of stature. It just boggles the mind. So uTrack 24, if you're thinking about it, don't think anymore. Just get yourself one. If you're looking to make up a really good project studio, but you want to be able to have your options open, you've got it. I mean, you've got your Focusrites, your M Audios, you know, and yes, they are the market leaders, both of them, you know, together. You know, they're the market leaders in audio interfaces and digital mixing and stuff. But you have to apologise. I apologise for the plane, but you know, if you're looking to get started and you want expandability in the future, because you can use 2 of these things together for 48 channels, you know, that'll be 48 in, 48 out. That's just crazy. And obviously you're going to be paying a lot more money, but in this day and age, you know, you do get what you pay for, and the quality of this Cymatic almost disproves that fact. So if you're thinking about it, go and get yourself one. Great unit. Cymatic, yeah, I believe in them. I'm going to be watching them like a hawk from now on. Let's see what else they come up with, eh? Take care now.